What?
The essentials of intuition.
Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up, share experiences or ask questions.
And that's related to last weekend's class.
Yeah.
If you have any shares or questions, especially after the class, during the class that you didn't get to ask, go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Miss Robert.
Hey, the class this weekend was so amazing. I have no way of putting words to it yet. I'm not sure I ever will, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So I have a very practical question of how to take all the learnings of Three Brains, including the essentials of intuition, and bring it to my clients.
Yeah,
I know for some of the people, I really need to start at the very beginning. And
I would agree. Like
drops.
it can be a little bit intense right off the bat. So we kind of did it little by little over a period of time. So I want to say it was the energetic mechanics of the nervous system, where we did the three brains, where it was just sex, solar plexus, brain, and we used things like spikenard or galbanum, vetiver, valerian, things of this nature. That's probably where I would start with people. And the reason being that those are very calming, they're very soothing. And if there's agitation in any of these centers, all three of these have the potential to have a high degree of agitation in the normal everyday person. When a person's been meditating or getting sessions, it might be reduced, but the sex chakra being the root brain and instinctive responses, the tendency to get triggered is going to be there. The solar plexus getting agitated with emotions and like angers and things, whatever it is. It's not just anger, but any sort of emotional agitation is going to be in that solar. And then the brain is just like agitated or worrisome thinking coming from the brain. And so at first, before you really start like activating them, I like to go through and like calm them down, like soothe them before we start taking it a little bit deeper, because you are turning on the intuition, you are turning on their ability to process. And it's not just that you're turning on intuition and psychological processing. For the body to heal, we really have to be able to go into that intuitive state, or what we would call rest and repair. And so it will really accelerate physical healing by working the three brains. We've had some situations where health issue has reduced substantially, something that's chronic and is considered kind of almost like not treatable. Like, it's like, well, when somebody gets that diagnosis, and going through and doing the three brain work, the symptoms had reduced substantially and the condition started to reverse itself. And that's not with addressing the symptoms, but just treating the body and how it processes. You're training the body to process essence to a greater degree. And right now, like I think we talked about this on the weekend, when you're first doing it, like I make no big deal about like work up, work down, it doesn't matter. And then you start paying attention to like, okay, now try keeping your awareness on the three areas. And then we start to integrate in the Mingmen, back, heart, and crown. And then you can work it up or you can work it down. And working it up is really tied more to the state of the body. And the state will be that it's in a stress state, it's in a depressed state, it's in a state where it really doesn't want to shift or change. and the body loves repetition. So that upward movement actually makes it easier for you to shift that body out of that state. And if you think about like when you have been doing healings on somebody, like you have somebody come in and they go, I have condition XYZ, and you treat it and they boom, they get better faster. And then the next person comes in and goes, I have condition XYZ. And you do the same thing, nothing. And then you try something else, nothing. And then you try, things that are even more involved, everything, still nothing. And then they go, yeah, I've been going to the doctor, like that's not working, like nothing's working, right? That right there is the state, the state of the body. And so what happens is sometimes the state of the body, it will affect the instinctual responses, it will affect the feelings, it will affect the thought processes. And it's like the best way that I can think of describing it is like, I used to describe it like this like 30 years ago. It's like you got locked in the kitchen, for example. At first you're like, there's big giant house and I'm locked in the kitchen. And, there's the living room, there's the garage, there's the bedroom. I want to go to my bedroom and lay down. After a couple of weeks, after a month, all you think about is things in the kitchen. That's all you think about because it's all you experience, right? So the experiences start to generate this kind of state of being that then is sometimes hard for the person to break out of. They're not consciously trying to stay there. It's that the physiology kind of holds them in that place. And so by working the pattern up, you make the potential for that state to like be able to shift or change. And then when we started to fold in, okay, then we have the body mapping, then we had the body's wisdom, right? So like I was saying, like, okay, these areas are things that can be like triggers in the body, it can be conditioning, it could be karmic imagery. Basically, it's different reasons or different whys elements or elementals end up in the tissue. And elements or elementals love repetition. I mean, they're all about repetition. And so different areas, because of mechanically what they do, they just keep producing this like state. And so even if you take and you look at, okay, working the centers up, and then you look at body mapping, and then you look at the body wisdom, that is a very deep way to be able to change the state that the body is in. Like sometimes you just go, I'm working on this person and they seem depressed, they seem locked into the way of thinking, they're just super negative, they're super this, they're super that. It's a state that their body's in. And then they'll go, I think I have this, I think I have that, I think I have this, it's this. All those symptoms aren't, they might have some of those symptoms, but really the driving force is the state that the body's in, right? Then when we flip it and we go from the top down, you're starting to break down the thought forms that have been generated or are associated with that state. So the body can have thought forms, the physiology can have thought forms. You could even say, like, really chronic health issues, like you take something like cancer, or you take something like diabetes, you take something, where it's a really tough thing to treat. You could say, in a way, it's not just the physiology that's dysfunctional or something going on. It's a giant thought form. It's a giant thought form that's in the body. It's not necessarily generated by the mind. It's not even generated necessarily by the emotions, but the dynamic of the instincts, the emotions, and the mind with the thought processes have combined to produce this thought form that is associated with this health issue. And so first you want to kind of work your way up like we've been doing. but we're starting to dabble with like, okay, what happens when we go down? And then there's this whole dynamic of up and down, and even the down, there's dynamics that we haven't really talked about yet. But first get them used to it, and then the artemisia and the mugwort starts to activate the centers, and then just kind of how we laid that out in some of the classes. That's why we're even doing the vagus nerve class again so quickly, is it's really an important class for deepening the level of healing that can happen regardless of the modality. Here we're talking about it with oils, but you could be doing energy work, you could be doing shamanic practices, you could be doing whatever version of it that you whatever modality that you want. If you follow those mechanics, it deepens the effect of the movement of the three brains, be it that it's producing a state or unwinding the thought form. And so like I thought it would be a good example too. So when our old students, like not old, but like been around a long time. So she had, she's talked about this in class, so this is like no big secret. She had she's a very sweet lady, very, very nice, very very soft. Even if she gets a little sassy, she's still like very, very soft. Well, she has a family member who is very, very aggressive. And when a family member, like their mother passed, the brother got really aggressive, and it freaked her out. Like, I mean, he was threatening like lawsuits and all this because it was over money and all that kind of stuff, and everybody was getting their fair share. He just thought he should take the lion's share. And so, the situation passed, and this is many years ago. And ever since then, she has just been not herself. Like, she started having panic attacks, she had phobias, has a hard time going outside, she has a hard time being in social situations. She's gone to the doctor, she's had MRIs, they've tried all kinds of medications. I've done healings on her, and get her feeling better for a little bit. We've used oils, we've done all the things that you can think of. And even if we get some results, they're very temporary, right? And so I sat with it for a while, and I was just like, I don't know what else to do. I'm watching her just like wind down because she can't, like, I tried pulling out all the projections from the brother. Like, I did all the things that you could think of and then some. And then it dawned on me. If I was to step away and come back and look at her without knowing all the history, what would I say? Like, what state is she in? And I was like, despair. She's in the state of despair. So I went to the body mapping notes and went through and did the stuff just like the stuff that's out of the class. I had her use the oils, and I did it with energy healing. And I mean, within 15 minutes, I'm not joking, she was like her old self again. And she's like laughing and joking and being social and sitting in the class and going out and shopping and all those things. And she kept like coming up to me and was like, I don't know what you did, but I love you. And she had to keep giving me hugs. And it just goes to show, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and it still slips by me. I still forget. Like, it seems so foundational or so elementary, but the mind gets caught up in the the whys and the story, and I got to deal with the stuff from the brother, and what's going on with the
Mhm.
symptoms. And when I just let it all go, like I was just like, I don't know what to do about any of that anymore. She's not responding to anything. And I started treating just what we know from the body wisdom class. I mean, it was 100% recovery. She was like back to her old self again. She was being sassy and funny and interacting. And I mean, I hadn't seen that in years. And it just goes to show that, going back to my kitchen, story, like, oh, if you're locked in the kitchen, all you think is the kitchen. If you buy a bunch of new sheets and a new pillow for your bed in the bedroom and you're locked in the kitchen, kind of doesn't matter. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it's
Right.
because you're in the kitchen. And okay, you got a new plasma TV. Well, find a place for it in the kitchen because it's not going into the living room or the den. And it's a really simple way of looking at it, but this idea of like the state that the person is in is very significant. And working the three brains at first does start to unwind it, but when you start working it up, it really makes it easy to shift the body into a different state, and it makes symptom oriented approaches a bit more effective. And then you start throwing in the body mapping, and it makes it even more effective. And then when you start looking at the compounds that are from the body wisdom class, it's a game changer. I mean, it is. I was flipping through my old notes because in the class a couple weekends ago, people were asking about different patterns and things, and I was like, oh, I mean, I should have made this like a 3-parter, like a 3-weekend class, because there's so many notes. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to compile them, and then I'm just going to drop it to you guys in the, so we're not going to necessarily cover it in a class. We might cover it in a study group. But that thing that I released in the where did we
Newsletter.
in the newsletter. We did do it in the newsletter, right? So we released it in the newsletter. So you can see like different compounds under the body wisdom, then even starts to turn into self-worth or self-esteem or self-image. And so it's just like this thing that goes up the food chain and eventually goes from physiology to eventually being like very cognitive and very aware and very upper center oriented. But it's like you're undoing all the weird resistances in the lower body that's from conditioning and traumas and genetics and environment and all those things. And so I mean, you'll have to evaluate your clients case by case, but base scenario is start them with like spikenard, galbanum, vetiver, and just getting them doing it a little bit. And when you're doing it with energy work, you could do green and violet in that phase, because anytime you do violet, we think of blue as reducing agitation, which it does. But when you project violet or you clean with violet, and that includes with violet oils like lavender or violet healer or acacia or lang lang. When you do that, it's like it reboots or calms down the effects of the sympathetic nervous system on the chakras. We looked at working the chakras with the glands and the will and all that. There's another component of it is that the sympathetic nervous system also plays a role in the chakras, and violet prana shifts that. So like when you say, hey, we're raising the vibration of the body, that kind of means something, but really you go, but what does that really mean? Like, okay, we're raising the vibration. It makes it easier for soul energy to come in and this to happen and that happen. You're increasing function, but still, what does that mean? Raising the vibration, like if you really just like boil it down, it's the regulation of the sympathetic nervous system. Like if you can regulate the sympathetic nervous system, eventually at some point, the cerebral spinal fluid circulation kind of takes over for temporary periods of time, starts to take over the sympathetic nerves, and the body can either have deep healing, or psychologically you can have release, or spiritually you have deeper meditations. And so you're kind of changing the body into this state to where it can handle the spiritual energy, it can handle the ability to shift, it can handle change that's starting to happen with the healing, with the oils, with the energy work, with meditation, even with talk therapy. Like a lot of times the reason why talk therapy doesn't take hold in some people is sympathetic nerves and the body's just in a state of lockdown. It's like, I'm not going to change. And so it just makes everything like a little bit more flexible. So like basically, long story short, I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but start them with that, then work them with the Artemisia. Then if you can start having them balance it, balance the three. And then after that, you start doing the Ming-Men, or excuse me, the sex, Ming-Men, solar plexus, back heart, brain, and then crown. And then from there, you can just almost start being more spontaneous with it. But at first, you got to it's like opening up a pipe. You got to get like that pipe going, you got to get that pipe established. And some people it will happen very quick. And some people it's really slow. Like, the pipe is full of molasses. And so, even the idea, like, we're getting ready to do the transformational astrology thing, that starts to be more of the way down. Like everything we've been doing is the way up, but the transformational astrology now starts to be like, okay, this is how you process things, this is how you process thoughts, this is how it goes down into the body. You're breaking up the thought forms, you're addressing things that is a perception based on your astrological sign. And so it's not always going to be the same for everybody. You take a Libra versus like a Capricorn, they're going to look at the same situation. They're going to generate different thought forms that then manifest in their body as either health or as a health issue or a condition, some form of physiological dysfunction, like diabetes or blood pressure or cancer or whatever that is, bad shoulder, bad back. And so we've been working it up, but the thing with the astrological components is it has a lot to do with your thought forms. It has a lot to do with the emotional body. And then because we're working it with some of the other alchemical processes, it will hit the instinctive responses and it will go like both directions. So we've been working it up and now we're about to take it and work it down.
I absolutely love these tangents. It fills in missing information. I don't know about everyone else, but keep doing it, please.
Thank you. It's weird because like sometimes on these streams I've been bottling all day, so I've just been quiet and haven't been talking, and then like I come in here and then I'm like, bah, 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 bah. And I was like, apparently I've been bottled up all day. I don't know what that is, but
so I have sort of two very related questions about working this with clients. I have a couple, I'll call them select clients that are highly intuitive already and understand how to talk to their body and to get answers. Do I still start them from the beginning?
No, with somebody that's already got some intuition, has been doing meditation, has been doing some energy work, working with oils, anything like that, even certain kinds of body work, like not just massage, but like fascial work. Like the fascial work really opens things up quite substantially. And so even if they are getting some form of fascial work, even if it's just time to time, you can jump to, working them with the Artemisia mugwort, jump them into like Shabumi and alignment. I would say the two big ones that we're going to do here shortly, and I think we've done one of them a little bit, is aloes and assemblage point. And we're probably going to do a whole class just on the assemblage point, because the thing with the assemblage point is it's almost like it takes the components of the state of the body, and then the downward part where it's the thought forms coming in, like those two things mix, and sometimes they get really like locked or intertwined, right? That however fluid, intertwined, however well or bad that is, that's really what you call the assemblage point. It's a byproduct of your physiology, of states, emotions, of the mind, of past conditioning, of the limbic functions. Like it takes all those pieces of information, and it really locks your perception in. And it's not just that, it even locks the perception in. Like if you go like, I have this pattern in my life, I always have conflicts in certain areas, or I always have a conflict with XYZ, or my personal one was, when being younger, is like, I'm always surrounding myself with people who knock my feet out from under me, and like do some form of betrayal. And you could say, well, you're the one choosing them. Yeah, that is true, right? But given to your own devices, even if you change everything, it still doesn't change very much. You different people, different clothing, different scenarios, same pattern. It really doesn't change a whole lot. And so then you go, what is it about me? And it's really like this idea of state in essence being locked into this just operating system. It's like, you're a computer guy. It's like having a new computer with 5 generations ago of an operating system, expecting this magnificent piece of hardware to function well with that 5-year-old operating system. And when you work the assemblage point, it's like it breaks that up so that you can shift. And it's not just like you think different and you feel different and the instinctive parts shift, but you'll notice that like behaviors will shift a little bit, and also like that energetic like kind of fixation like diminishes. It's like it almost like opens up this possibility of something bigger and better to come in, because like when the assemblage point is really like locked into something, which is all these pieces together, and it's like you're looking through the microscope going, but I don't see the stars. Like I'm trying to see the stars, I don't see the stars. But it's such a narrow viewpoint that really bigger things can happen. Releasing old conditioning, old traumas, old ways of doing things, releasing things from your genetics, it really can't happen because the fixation is under the microscope. And so it's almost like you jerk the microscope away and go, look at life through binoculars, look at life eventually through this telescope. And then it turns into Sometimes you need the telescope, sometimes you need the binoculars, sometimes you need glasses, sometimes you need the microscope, right? Depending on what it is, but you're not locked into a certain way of seeing it. So your perceptions become more fluid. So it's literally like you can allow something to happen, or even, I don't want to say make something happen. It's almost more like you're allowing something to happen. It's just about like putting yourself in the right place at the right time.
So in a way, for a client that we're starting this work on, you've said in the past, we don't have to walk them through doing every single section twice. But it sounds like this would be a good thing to say, I want you to take this home as homework and do this twice a day.
Do it twice a day, and then and then at some point, just know they're going to outgrow it. It might be different for a different person. Like even the classes are they're classes, they're healing sessions, and they're almost like a little bit of a ceremony, you could say. They're not really a ceremony, but the reason I say ceremony is they open up to this like spontaneous like action, and then we kind of move on. And then we're like, well, but that one was amazing. But if you've been doing the actions at some point, you kind of have moved past it. It was like, that was great, but there's more to come. Like there's other steps. It's not just let's keep doing this over and over again. The body loves that, the logical mind loves that, and there's a time and place for that actually. But then there's times where you go, okay, let's do this dance and then move on. There's other dances.
Okay. And then I have a question that's more personal about a physical condition I've been having for about 8 or 9 months now, of some back pain. And as I was sitting in the Astara sessions, it occurred to me that the pain is very close to where the main Ming is. And is this a sign that I'm having problems transmuting the energy from the root brain?
Probably your hip, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, you know, or whatever. That's that old Freudian thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's close to that, but a lot of times when there's a little bit of a hip issue, that's actually where you'll feel it there before you'll actually feel it in your hip. So is it on one side more than the other, or?
Well, the back pain, the whole situation changes every single day, and every time I try to express what's going on. It started out on just the left side, and the pain was in my leg, not in my back. Now I can feel it in my back and on both sides when I sleep on either side. So it's a whole series of different things.
Treat both hips. Put like joint relief on both hips. But what you could do is so with something like that is do the 3 brains, but from the top down. Like, is it okay if I talk about your thing? So Samantha had a thing where, you know, every once in a while her back will get a little irritated, but she's fine. And then I don't know, like a couple of months ago, her back got kind of irritated and wasn't responding to normal treatment. And, you know, she's stretching, she's doing all the right things. And I'd do healings on it, and we'd put ointments on it. I mean, we were being very diligent about how we were treating it. And it would feel better, but it never felt like, oh, that was amazing. Right. And then I did the 3 brain component from the top down. And like I probably only did it on her like with not even with oils. I just did it with healing. And she goes, what was that? And I told her kind of what I did, and she goes, whatever that was, that made my back pain go away. And I mean, it was gone for a while. And so now when it flares up, we just go back through and do it. She still stretches from time to time. We still put ointments and stuff on it, but it went from a 10 to a 1 or a 2. And so it became easier to treat, it became easier to manage, it became even with using symptomatic approaches, by working the 3 brains in that way, it responded much quicker, much faster to a symptom-oriented approach.
Okay.
You know, like to the point where, you know, I had been kicking this around even when we were doing the conditions classes, like, hey, the respiratory condition. I was going to start dropping the 3 brain thing in there, and I was like, it's still too early. But basically, like what the idea would be is, like, say you're treating a sore throat, you would work the 3 brains, and then you would treat the sore throat. So it might be going up, it might be going down, right? And so every condition, it usually is the same from, like, if a sore throat is, like, say, working it from the bottom up, you can go to 10 people, it's going to be all the same, bottom up. Like, so you can almost say that's a template. Like, you could look at it as like that condition responds the best with this kind of approach. And so over the next couple months, I'm going to be releasing, like, here's the process, here's the protocol. The first piece is just like you would do general sweeping and cutting cords and everything with thing, we're going to do that. And then maybe a little colored prana. And then, you know, and then, you know, so you can have, like, maybe it might be 3 or 4 steps, but it's a way to effectively treat that condition and produce a rapid result. But
Excellent.
yeah.
That feels really good in a general sense, to say, okay, here's an approach that is 90% or 80%.
Yeah.
And from there, it becomes much easier to handle the exceptions.
Yeah, exactly. And it becomes much easier to problem solve, because you can almost go back to the 3 brains as the way to problem solve. I mean, really, the way to problem solve is go to body mapping and body wisdom. You know, that usually is the thing. Like, I forget it. Like with that person where I went through and treated despair, I can't tell you how many healings I've done on her. Like, and I was trying all these different things, and then I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, I don't know what to do. And, you know, I stepped away from it, and I was like, okay, if I had fresh eyes and I walked into this, I was a little too invested in it, you know. And
It's easy to go down. It's easy to go down a rabbit hole and not realize you've gone down it.
Yeah, so easy. And I go, fresh eyes, it looks like despair to me. So as soon as I went to that, I mean, it's like I flicked a light switch. She just, like, woke up and popped up, and she was like, I am feeling so much better. I haven't felt this good in a while. I mean, it was amazing to watch. And I was like, maybe it's just my imagination. So I was asking a couple other people, when you notice her, is she doing the same, or is she doing better? She was like, she's doing way better right now, way better. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for all of that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting too, like, you know, the thing with the transformational astrology. I mean, it is working the thought forms, like, down, and the astrological component is quite potent, but I'm trying to come up with ways for you to address it with a client, that you don't have to have everybody's astrological stuff to be able to do it.
Mm.
You know, like, if you're really wanting to go deep with somebody, you could do it, but I'm cooking it, I'm experimenting with it, but I think I have it about nailed. I just want to play it to 15, 20 people before, you know, I say,
okay. Yeah, there's like 3 people right now that I feel I might walk through this in some way, shape, or form, and I'm not sure that they'll get to that point. I there's one who might, a very long-term client, and whatever path we go down, she's thrilled. She sees the changes, and we might get to that class, but I don't know. That's a long way off.
Yeah. But even if you do it with healing, you could just even do it with your wand, you know, like you're doing energy.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
We are going to, like, when I see you, we are going to talk about using tools with the oils and the processes. We're going to talk about that, you
Oh,
know.
good. I'm
informally,
looking forward to it.
Little side study group where I give you guys instructions that are doing healings with, you know, using crystals and purvas and dorjes and all that.
That'll be
I've been
fun.
wanting to do it for a while. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll get it there.
And someone's having a clarifying question. When you're saying you did it energetically or with energy work, are you saying you use pranic healing to clean them, energize the chakras in that order? Clean, then energize the chakras?
It's energy work. It wasn't necessarily pH. You know, it's pH-ish, but it wasn't following. It's following more the parameters of 3 brains rather than how pH is just clean and energized. It's a little bit different. Yeah.
We have some people excited about the tools too.
Yeah. It's super exciting. I honestly, it's what I've been doing for 25 years. It's just now I'm going to get to talk about it with people.
And then go ahead, Barbara.
Hey, Miss Barbara.
Hey there. I'm wondering, as someone with a tendency to have a Mingmen that gets overactivated pretty easily, should I
Mhm.
be making any adjustments in this 3-brain work? Or it's hard to think it's not related, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, like, you know, when I look at you, I would say the Mingmen is there, but I would say it's more solar and the back heart. Like like sometimes it's like your body's processing things, but sometimes the shift from the work is impacting like the heart chakra more than usual. And so I would work the solar plexus and the back heart probably a bit more. And I would, for you, I would do it more from the bottom up. Like it's like a state of the body. It's not based on like your thoughts or anything like that, but I mean, you do have a little bit of a difficulty in that and I mean this in a good way, but you have a Buddhist practice, and the Buddhist practice facilitates change on a level that sometimes your body can't keep up with. And so for that, keep working it up so that your body can keep up with what you do in your Buddhist practice. Don't stop doing the Buddhist practice. It's just that at some point, what happens is the body it gets congested, it can't keep up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting when I went and worked with the etheric cords, because I just seemed inspired to do that. And all of a sudden there was this huge release out of the back heart.
Yeah. And like you said, like, you know, you sometimes that like might be old stuff from work or your family, but you're also part of a group that's all practicing together, and you know, there's always that dynamic of being in a group, and things that don't necessarily have something to do with you, but the group is going through certain things, that still hits you, that still weighs on you. And so the chords just clean it up. Like
Okay.
that just ugh. It's like you're still part of the group, but you don't have to take on the debris.
Yeah, I try not to, but that's a good
Well,
reminder.
emotionally, mentally, like a lot of times, emotionally,
It's
mentally,
unconscious.
yeah, like you're not doing it, but your body is the one that is like, will just do what it does. So, I mean, keep trying not to take it on emotionally, mentally, but physically, just clean it up with chords. They're chords.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so is there a caution for this astrological transformation class that I'm really excited about if you're going top down with that?
What's that? Say that again.
Is there a caution for me with the
No,
astrological
oh no,
class you're doing?
no, it's not necessarily a caution. It's just that the bottom up will help your physiology keep up with the practice. Down is going to feel delicious to you, like it's gonna amp up, you know, what happens in your meditations and things. There's no caution there. It's just that you need more of the going up with the Buddhist practice.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's kind of exciting. I'm so excited about the astrological thing because
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't be there in person.
yeah, that's okay. It's going to be something we utilize a lot. Um, I I tried to present it. Remember how long ago was that? Like 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, like 4 years ago, I think.
Before we were
Yeah.
streaming, I taught it in but I didn't do everybody's individual sign. I just did all the signs, and I knocked everybody out in the weekend. Like people were literally like by the end of the weekend were just crashed out. It was too much in a weekend. But you know, now breaking it up the way that we're doing, um it's actually more in depth and more specific, and it's a much easier way to, like, it's more tolerable to the body, you know. Back then I didn't have the foundation laid out with all the stuff that we've been talking about, so I just kind of threw it out there, but it was too early. I only taught it once. Yeah.
But it was awesome.
Yeah.
Very excited. Let me see. I think there was one more question.
Mm.
Got a little sidetracked thinking about the class. I think that's it. Ready? Want to do a little practice stuff?
Yeah,
Just a
let's
little quick
do
one or
a
something?
little quickie quick. Let's do segment 7. So one of the sages, eucalyptus smithy, a lavender, a spruce, a sitka, violet healer. Will you block it up for a second? I'm just going to the bathroom. Okay, so we have one of our oils and begin inhaling. Your awareness is on the Ming Men, the low back area. Long, slow, deep breath. The back heart. Your awareness is on the back heart. And then the crown. Your awareness is on the crown. And we've been practicing on balancing the three brains, but the reason I wanted to choose this one tonight, we want to start practicing balancing the Ming Men, the back heart, and the crown. At first, we're balancing this, but eventually this even evolves into something a little bit more potent. But you have to practice this piece before you can do the next piece. So right now you're just balancing equally Ming Men, back heart, crown. And then let go. Just let go. Now you're going to pick out St. John's wort, Melissa, Galbanum, Cistus, Paracelsus, Gilead, emotional release. And again, Ming Men, which is your low back area. Your awareness is on the back heart. Your awareness is on the crown. And then the Mingmen, back heart, and crown, all three at the same time. And then be still. Now we're going for aloes, basil, cypress, eucalyptus, assemblage point, allostasis, or cypress supreme. You're inhaling, your awareness is on the Mingmen. The back heart. And then the crown. And then the Mingmen, back heart, and crown, all three at the same time. Okay, and then just let it go. Let everything go for a moment. Well, let's just do a little practice. Without the oil, your awareness is on the Mingmen, back heart, and crown. All three at the same time. Okay, let it go. Think of something that bothers you. Some thought, some feeling, some situation. Observe it for a moment. Okay, let it go. Awareness on the Mingmen, back heart, and crown at the same time. And then let go. Reflect on that situation again. What happened? Harder to hold on to it, right? Harder to call it up. The more you practice this, the more that it becomes potent. The more you practice it, the more you almost instantaneously like detach or disentangle, whatever you want to call it. So you're setting energetic patterns in the body that almost become automatic. So, okay, you guys. Thanks for a great session tonight. I really enjoyed talking with you guys, and
Got a quick question. Someone's asking,
Sure.
is ironbark eucalyptus okay, or is it different from plain eucalyptus?
it's okay. Regular eucalyptus would be better, but if you didn't have anything else, like go ahead and use it. Yeah, good call though. You know, to like notice the difference like that. Like good call.
And someone also shared, it feels like some of the energy was collecting in the back head.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're releasing things out of the brain, the back head is where it's releasing from. If it feels like it's a little too much, use like sage or aloes or something back there. But we'll be going into those mechanisms a little bit deeper as the next couple of classes unwind, but yeah, the back head's a whole thing unto itself. Yeah. 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 If you have a purpose, like go into the back head and then disintegrate out. You know. Yeah. 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 It's almost like it's a release point for mental processes.
Someone else has a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lucinda.
Hey, Miss Lucinda.
Okay, there we go. So,
Hey.
hey, sorry. I was doing this for something that I agreed to do, but it like brings up a lot of now I kind of wish I hadn't done it, and it's like a 3-month commitment. And so I was using this technique, but more for the front, to try to like come to terms with it, because every time I go to this rehearsal, it's going to be kind of right in my face, and it brings up an old issue. So it feels like this working the back really helped with that more than working.
Yeah, I would work
front.
the back. I would work the back.
Okay.
It will help you process like a situation that you're in. It will help you, you said, to like kind of come to terms with it. And it will help you like break out of the old pattern. So like,
Perfect.
you know, like you're already kind of in it. So, you know, who knows what's going to happen with it, but at least you can make peace with it. But it's like it almost like your awareness is on it. It's like, okay, let's do this different or not again or whatever that might be.
Sure. Yeah. Agree to do things that put you in like a lesser status spot, and it's the mindset that's what I should do.
Yeah,
And
I would say I would agree with what you're saying, but I'd almost use like a little bit slightly different words. Is you're very nice, like you're very, very super nice. And
yeah, that sucks sometimes.
yeah, and sometimes the issue is like when you have to say no, or you have to be like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to do this. Like, you know, and maybe they need it or what, you know, whatever.
Right.
It
Yeah.
probably doesn't feel bad, or you start to feel a little guilty, or, you know, work the guilty thing in the body wisdom, but also the working the backside like this. It helps you to get to a place where it transmutes that feeling of like, they're upset, I should do it. I want to avoid conflict, I should do it. They need it, I should do it. You know, it's not that you're being a jerk by not saying it, but I think there's like an inner perception of like, if I was being nice, like you just this is what you do, and you're changing that. And like, you know how we were talking about with Robert about working things up versus working things down,
Yes.
that I would work it down. Like
This
start
one you
with
work
the
down. Okay.
brain. Yeah, like you know, work the thing that we just did, but like
Yeah.
you could work the brain and then the crown and then the solar and the back card and the sex and then the Ming Men. And you're literally kind of breaking down the years that thought form was generated, because it's almost like you're wrestling with not just the person, you're wrestling with this thought form that has been there for a very long time. And
Yeah, since it's a long time.
Yeah, and so it's a way to kind of kick it to the curb, and you're still going to be a nice person, but like it's you know, in certain circles, like when I was doing stuff in corporate things, I would just say this like nice person syndrome. you're so nice that people know they can work you a little bit, or you know plead or state their case, and you're so nice that you'll like, okay, I guess I'll sacrifice when um uh I feel the need to tell this story. So my ex, she had very curly hair, like very, very curly hair. And this is when we were living in Southern California. And she was an interior designer, and she had to have like a certain look to do the jobs and everything. And so her hair was so curly that like it was hard for her to go to any salon to get it cut. And they didn't know how to cut it right. And there was this one guy that was, I think he was from Israel, and he had curly hair, and he knew how to cut curly hair, and to the point where he won some award from like Vidal Sassoon or something, like one of the top hairstylists in the country. And so she got into him somehow. And with guys like that, you don't go in and go, I want a little off the top, I want a little like this. Like, he's being creative, he's gonna do, because he's also being judged by the haircut. So he's giving you kind of the fashion oriented haircut that's the style at the time. And when you go to him, you really don't get a lot of say so. He's just gonna style you up or chef you up, however you want to say it. And she had this thing about when she would get her haircut, like her grandpa, when she was little, would always want to cut her hair really short because he didn't like her curly hair. And so, she didn't like to have her hair cut too much. Well, it was at the time where those little bobs were kind of a thing. And so she went to the guy, and he didn't give her a bob, but he definitely cut it short. And she was pretty upset. She cried a little bit and everything. And I said to her, I was like, look, this guy, it's his reputation. Like, he's not going to change for you. Like, you go to him because he's doing the fashion thing at the time, and you either do it or you don't. And she was like, no, I'm going to tell him. And so she went, and she was crying, and she said all these things. And she basically said she wanted it, and it was like, for him to do it, it was like what she wanted was a very outdated look, and
Mhm.
like in his profile, he didn't want any of that. And so she's saying, like, this is what I want. And he went, no. That was it.
Wow.
No. And like, she came back and she told me, and I started laughing. I was like, man, that dude, like, how many people can say that? Like, I was like, I feel like I'm pretty good with stuff like that. I don't know that I could even do it. I would have given an explanation. I would have said this. I would have said why, whatever. And he's just like, no. And she goes, well, then I won't come. And he was like, okay. But like, this is what I do. And I was like, I got to get myself to that place where I'm just like, no. And doesn't mean that he wasn't mean about it. He wasn't nasty about it. He's just like, I'm not doing that old haircut. And, I had to go and see this guy because, like, watch them interact. Because I was like, is he being a jerk about it? He was not. He was being very nice. He's being very polite, but he's just like, look, no, I can't do that. He had a reputation to maintain, and I would say just try, like, keep working at walking yourself there to where, even not just like, oh, I'm not going to do it, but to be able to say no and not have to defend yourself or explain yourself is the point I'm trying to make. You're a nice
Yeah.
person. And so even in your explanation or you know, kind of defending the choice. They're still going to hook you in and try to get you to do what you're going to do. But you got to get to that place where you can just go, no. I'm not doing it."
Yes, I think it's a balance of, do I want to deal with feeling the guilt or
Right.
the familiar?
Right. But work the guilt
Sacrifice.
part from the body wisdom.
Yeah, yeah.
Work that a bunch. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Sonia.
Hey, Sonia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my heart chakra hurts front and back. It's like overwhelmed.
Do you have any etheric cords?
Yeah.
Yeah, inhale the etheric cords a bit. You look a bit congested, but it's because of cords. I'm just straightening out your health rays to make it go a little faster. Yeah, but do that. Yeah.
Great
Okay.
session tonight, guys.
Okay, you guys. Well, hopefully I see you on the weekend. And what else are we doing?
The physical and spiritual aspects of the Vegas.
Oh yeah, it's the vagus nerve thing again. So I think most of you have had it, if not all of you have had it. So join us if you can. Usually second time around is a bit deeper and more explanation. And so hope to see you. Take care.